All right, so here it looks like we're going and taking this fraction divided by this fraction times this fraction. Now remember, with PEMDAS, we take and do multiplication and division from left to right. So that's all we have. So what we're going to do first is this. Then after that, we'll take it times 2/3. So if we have 3 over 5, and then divided by 7 over 15, we need to change that to times 15 over 7. And then we can go ahead and say, well, that's also going to be times 2 over 3. Now, one nice thing about multiplication, it doesn't matter how it is. It's this times this times this. So anytime we can reduce, we can do that before we multiply because that's going to make it easier. Because if we take 3 times 15 is 45, times 2 is 90. Here we have 35 times 3, and that gets to be a big number too. But if we say, well, this 3 here cancels this 3 here, we've gotten rid of one factor we can make easier. Well, this 5 cancels, and there's 3 left here. That makes that a lot easier. And now there's nothing else to cancel. Now we can take 1 times 3 times 2 is 6. 1 times 7 times 1 is 7. And that's much easier. Okay, so when you have all multiplication and they're all fractions, it's sometimes easier just to go ahead and start reducing before you do any division or any multiplication, because that's going to make it so your answer is a lot simpler. All right, what about here? Well, we have a negative and then parentheses 1/2 squared plus 4 times 1/2. So we've got exponents we have to take care of, and we have a multiplication we have to take care of, and then at the end, an addition. So let's go ahead and square 1/2. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to square the 1 and we're going to square the 2. So it's going to be a negative. Now 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4. Now remember, that negative's out front. That's not getting squared. The only thing that gets squared is exactly what's before it, which is what's inside of parentheses. So that's a key thing to remember. You don't square that negative out here. Now we take the 4 times 1/2. Well, guess what? We can reduce. Now remember, this is really over 1, so we can take 2 goes in here once, 2 goes in here twice. Then we have 2 times 1 is 2, 1 times 1 is 1, and so basically we just have plus 2. Okay? So now what do we have? Well, now we have to get a common denominator, because if we think about this, that 1 over 4 plus 2, well, 2 what? Well, it's 2 over 1. Now we have denominators so we can see that are not the same. So what is our common denominator? Well, it's going to have to be a 4. So that means we're going to have to multiply this by, well, let's go ahead and change the color here so we know we're doing something different. I don't know, green. So times 4 over 4. And so now what we have is a negative 1/4 plus, now we have 2 times 4 is 8 over 1 times 4 is 4. Now with the common denominator, we can add the numerators. So 8 minus 1 over 4, or 7 over 4. Okay. Now we had fractions only to start with, so I'll leave this as a fraction here instead of converting it to a mixed number. All right, so here we have addition and subtraction only. Well, it works the same as that multiplication and division. We just work from left to right. So we're going to take this minus this, and then after that, we're going to add this. Okay, well, you know what would be easiest, I think? We got to get a common denominator anyway, so let's get a common denominator for everything. So we'll have a 3 over 4, and then times what? Well, let's go ahead and make that green again. Well, we have a 4 and a 5 and a 4. Well, that's 2 times 2. That's 5 times 1. That's 2 times 2. So it's going to be basically 4 times 5. And so what we're going to do is we're going to multiply that by 5 over 5. So that's not a problem. And then we have minus 2 over 5 times, well, what are we multiplying that one by? Well, here we're multiplying by 4 over 4. Here, now we say, okay, well, plus 3 over 4 times what? Well, now we're going to multiply by, again, the 5 over 5. All right. Now we have 3 times 5, so that's going to be 15 over 4 times 5 is 20, minus 2 times 4 is 8 over 5 times 4 again is 20, plus now we have 3 times 5 again is 15, and that's all over 20. Okay. So if we go from left to right, or however we want to look at it, this becomes 15 minus 8. Well, 15 minus 8 is going to give us the 7 over 20, and then plus our 15 over 20. Okay, so we've done this piece. That's going to give us the 7 over 20. Now we're going to add in this one, and so 15 plus 7 is going to give us 22 over 20. And there would be our final answer if we couldn't reduce it. But guess what? We can reduce. We can take, 2 goes in here, and that would be 10 times. 2 will go in here 11 times. And so this actually then is 11 over 10 as our final answer. Okay. So sometimes, we go along and we have not too hard of a problem. We just have to get a common denominator, and that's pretty simple. And then what we have to do is do our left to right, which is not hard at all. But then we get our final answer and we're happy we got it done. But if we forget to reduce it to the 11 over 10, then we're going to get it wrong when we type it into mom. And so that's going to be an issue. So always remember to reduce your answer. Oops. All right, so let's do some more here. Again, common denominators is going to be our first thing, and I think that's just going to be something we have to do. So we have 3/4 times something, and then we have minus, and then we have 1/5 times something, and then we have plus 2/3 times something. Okay, so let's put that something in here. We have a 4, a 5, and a 3. So there's nothing common in any of them. So we're gonna have to basically take 4 times 5 times 3 to get our common denominator. So if we have a 4 here, that means we have to take 5 times 3, which is 15. So we have to take it times 15 over 15. Now with the 5, we have to take 4 times 3, which is 12. So that's gonna be 12 over 12. And with the 3, that's gonna be 4 times 5, which is gonna be 20 over 20. Okay, so now we've kind of got it simplified enough to a point where we'll have a common denominator. And so 3 times 15 is going to give us 45 over. Now 15 times 4, well, again, if you ever have any issues, you can always come over to the side of your page, and 4 times 5 is 20, and that gives you 60, and you can get your answer like that. It doesn't have to mean you have to always know how to get this directly in your head. You can always use scratch paper and get to your point where we have here. And then we're going to subtract off, and then 1 times 12 is 12 over 60, plus 2 times 20 is 40 over 60. And so now we have a problem to simplify some more. This is going to be what we do next, because remember, we do parentheses first before we do the subtraction. And so this gives us 45 over 60 minus, well, 40 plus 12, that's going to be 52 over the 60. Okay. And so then we're going to take and we're going to look at these and we're going to say, okay, well, we're subtracting. And so 45 minus 52 over 60, well, our common denominator is 60, so we're good there. And 45 minus that, that's the same thing as 45 plus a negative 52. So we take larger minus a smaller, which is going to be a 7. Sign is negative. Now, can we reduce this one? No, that's about as good as we can get there. We can't reduce it because 7 doesn't go into this, and so that would be where we stop and we're done. All right, what about the next one here? Well, here we have 1/2 times a 1/7 that's squared. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 1/2 times, well, now we're going to square the 1 and we're going to square the 7. Well, squaring 1 gives us 1. Squaring 7, well, 7 times 7 is 49. And so that's our problem now. Well, now what do we do? Well, now we just multiply. 1 times 1 is 1. And here again, if you need to, 49 times 2, well, that's 18. That's 898. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you know all these directly by hand. You've always got your work over here you can do on the side. All right, what about here? Well, this one is probably going to be the easiest one on the page, or the easiest one we've done for a while. We just take 8 minus 7. Well, that's 1. 9 minus 6. That's 3. Woohoo! That was an easy one. Okay, and so that's how we would do that one. All right, let's pause here and then we'll come back for more.